right.
There's only so many ways you can describe our weather. Brilliant.
So sorry. So let's recap 2017 just real quickly. President Trump was inaugurated. We had the Women's March on January 21st. Brexit happened. There was some escalation with North Korea. We all learned about self-driving cars and what the possibilities could be with that, kind of mind-boggling. We learned a lot about self-learning, artificial intelligence, and there was also the really tragic Las Vegas shooting with 58 people dead and 851 people injured.
Yes.
So in
people
2000,
from my hometown was at Las Vegas and were injured. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah. I'm not too far from Vegas, so about 4 hours.
Wow. That was very tragic. I won't go too into that because I don't want to depress everybody, but that was very, very sad. Definitely affected me very much. But in 2018, we had our International Women's Day, March for Our Lives, which was organized by the survivors of the Parkland, Florida school shooting, which was incredibly powerful. I think the whole nation was watching these kids stand up to our politicians, which was inspiring and amazing. And I mean, it just goes to show how fed up they are with what's going on with the gun violence in our country. And then we also saw a lot of civic engagement. So there's a huge surge in voting popularity. You see celebrities like Taylor Swift come out and talk about politics when she's never talked about politics ever before. And just the importance of midterm elections. Lots of women were voted into Congress, which was amazing, including the youngest woman to ever serve in Congress, Ocasio-Cortez, and the first Muslim women and the first Native American to ever be voted into Congress, which was really cool. We also had the World Cup, the royal wedding. Nelson Mandela, July 18th marked 100 years since Nelson Mandela was born. And then we are remembering lost people, Aretha Franklin, Stephen Hawking, and Burt Reynolds. Yeah. So lying at the center of our naturally vivid and chromatic ecosystem, a living coral is evocative of how coral reefs provide shelter to a diverse kaleidoscope of color. So I thought I highlighted the words provide shelter because this also seemed like a very intentional way to describe this color. And if you think about how coral reefs really are this living shelter for tons of marine life, it is a pretty amazing thing to think about. And it made me think about what's going on in our political climate. And do you think that this is an echo of how maybe the current U.S. administration has handled immigrants crossing the border and sort of providing shelter to those who may be in need?
I thought that was really interesting because, I am a child of an immigrant. So I was trying to think of, my relatives, when, because I'm the first one born in this country on that side. And I was thinking about coral because, again, I'm living at the beach. Coral's been a part of my life. The actual, not just the color, but the actual coral. And we, growing up, we had a saltwater fish tank with living coral in it.
Oh, cool.
And and watching the different fish. So in terms of it, the border, knowing watching coral and the fish and actually snorkeling, and not just here in the waters in the Pacific, but around the world. Coral is a shelter for very specific fish and sea creatures. And it's also a place for them to hide, to jump out, to sneak up on prey. I've also been snorkeled across coral and had eels pop out at me, which can be dangerous.
Oh my goodness.
I've also been cut. If you touch coral or get cut by it, and if you don't take care of it properly, because coral is a fungus, you will get an infection. So some people have allergic reactions. So I don't see it as, it is a protection for us. Yes, the small fish that are invited to live amongst or around the coral, but and to keep other predators out, but it's also a place for them to prey upon other, because I've seen it just even in my own fish tank. So it kind of works both ways. I just thought that was really interesting to see. I kept thinking about last night, and I guess because all my interactions with actual coral has just didn't, I don't know, I was trying to relate that into the board. And I only live about, I'm about an hour from the border of Mexico. So I don't know, I didn't quite, I see it as more as a pillar of kind of just a reflection of the sun, but coming out of the water, because the sun sets on the water. When it sets, it does reflect itself across the water, and I just feel like the coral is just mirroring that coming up from the ocean. And but I don't see it as something like in terms of this collection of a shelter for all creatures, because I think of, okay, if it's shelter for like the border or the protection for immigrants, it's for anyone seeking asylum, whereas in the coral in the ocean, it's not for every sea creature out there.
Yeah, it's not so literal. I think that when
it isn't, but I do see it as it's just real coral is just so fascinating, and to watch the fish interact with it and how they use it in so many different ways. But I do see it as like a ray of hope. It's beautiful, but it's also if you cut yourself on it, which have numerous times, it's dangerous. You can really cut yourself on it. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting, and I kept kind of trying to figure out, I don't know, but that was the best I could come up with on it is a collection of color. I think it goes back to, it's that very relatable color. Even if you don't necessarily like the color, you don't want it in your home, or you don't want to wear it, I'm sure you probably eat a food that is that color, or you appreciate the sunset or a flower or something. So I think it's a color that someone can find that common thread of, again, like I've traveled the world, and it just seems like that color has rippled in every country that I've been to. So there is, I think there is a pull to it. That color has just a thread that extends to everybody, where we can all weave together.
Yeah, I agree with that. So my other question was, is this color choice meant to call attention to coral reefs being endangered? Because this was something I read about with National Geographic, and I think I even saw some, I don't know if it was on Vice News or if it was a documentary that I watched, but I saw something on TV being covered on this as well, because like National Geographic says, our coral reefs could be gone in 30 years. Like, they're really becoming endangered right now. And a UN study found that unless global warming is reduced, coral reefs will die of heat stress. And there's already bleaching happening across, across the globe in, huge coral places. And reef expert Mark Eakin calls this catastrophe heartbreaking, and that says that it's already happening. And again, according to National Geographic, 25 reefs, and that's 3/4 of the world's reef systems, experience severe bleaching events, and this is the worst to date. And Eakin continues and says, the Great Barrier Reef damage is greater than anything we've seen in the past 20 years, and that the last 3 years have been extremely depressing for him, because this is his work, this is his job. Yeah. And so he's seeing this every day. So I think that this could be also sort of a reason why they picked this color. And, not that that's the only reason, but the fact that they may want to call attention to this really global problem.
Yeah, I sure hope so, because to see coral in its natural environment is so amazing. It's so amazing. And to read about how fast it's dying off and it's being affected it is very heartbreaking. So I do hope that is, again, their purpose is to bring attention to the coral reefs. I hope so. And I do think so. I think, it's kind of, we're at an opposite. The last year's color really kind of reflected deep, had a celestial space kind of feel to it. And this one has more of a earthly, to me, it's not just under the sea, it's the sun, but I don't know. I really feel like we're kind of doing the opposite here, pole, but I do hope that this does bring attention to that and maybe get more people out to visit their local aquariums, or tide pools, and learn more about what they can do to change those numbers in the other direction.
Right. It's really scary and devastating, and it can have a colossal impact on our well-being as well. It's not just about, marine life. It's all connected. And we rely on coral a lot more than we think we do. So
they do. The ocean really does. I mean, again, like I had a saltwater tank, and it was like we needed that piece of coral in there because it's kind of like, having plants, what it does for us. It does the same thing for under the ocean. It's for the creatures that live around it. So it's not just this beautiful, aesthetic thing for the fish it has served so many purposes, and it's
right. There's a lot of symbiotic relationships there.
Yes, there is. So, I hope Pantone, this color brings a lot of attention to those numbers.
Yeah, I think it will. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit about the history of the color coral. So I call this little segment the Humans Meet Coral.
Yeah.
So the first use of the word coral was written in 1513 as a color name in English. And to kind of go back and kind of start with coral reefs, they were first harvested for jewelry by the ancient Egyptians and worn in Rome to ward off evil. And then Renaissance paintings of baby Jesus often depict him holding a coral amulet, which is assumed to also kind of continue this tradition of warding off evil. And then in the Victorian era, it was carved for cameo portraits, and it was prized in sleek Art Deco jewelry during the first half of the 20th century. And then hippies of the 60s and 70s treasured it in its raw form. And then going back like before the 16th century, before there was even a word for coral, Chinese and Europeans would have labeled this color yellow-red. So they didn't even really have a word for orange. So Europeans then learned the Sanskrit word as they were trading with India, naranga, which they learned via trade, like I said, in the 15th century, which later became orange in English. But it's also very close to the Spanish word naranja for orange. That is sort of where it came from. And then by the mid-18th century, iron oxide pigments could finally be mass-produced for painting red, orange, and yellow shades. But then in 1840, the more chemically stable color cadmium yellow was created, followed by cadmium red in 1920. And both flooded the market while, for the first time, making the full range of orange hues possible. So I think it was at this time that, you could really get any shade of orange or red or yellow, and mixing all of those shades. And
and I find that really interesting because I used to paint ceramics years ago, and reds was the hardest one to fire. It would, sometimes you had to get a special paint and fire it separately from the other colors, and additional firing. The color tended to bubble very easily, or it could not turn out the way it was supposed to. And so I'm wondering if the yellows were mixed in, because when you mix in some of the other colors, you didn't have that problem of the fire. I don't know what it was with the reds, but the corals So mixing more of the yellows into the reds, giving them the different shades of the oranges and corals, maybe offset the way that they produced the different objects or materials because of the red dyes and inks or whatever medium they were working in. But
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, because from what I was researching, it sounded like it was a really difficult color to kind of get to that place. Like, I think the first red ever was sort of a lead-based red, but it was really toxic, so people didn't use it quite as much. But once they had the cadmium colors, it was definitely more stable, and it really flooded the market. And then coral became a favorite among impressionists, which makes sense. And the rest is kind of history from there. We've been able to use it ever since. And it's been a really nice color.
This color is, again, it has repeated itself through history very strongly, I would say.
Yeah. So our next little section is all about you, and it gets kind of personal. So we're going to talk about your personality and if you're a coral person or if you're not a coral person. So are you a coral person? So how do you feel about the color living coral or coral in general? So Erica, I think you're, from what you've said, you tend to really love this color. So I'm assuming you are a coral person.
Unless it's on the pinkier side, because if it gets too much yellow in it, I tend to look anemic. So I don't wear this color very often, but I do appreciate seeing it. And I live in a very culturally diverse area, so I do see this color a lot. It looks great on other people. It just does not. Again, as long as it's more on the pinky coral side, I can wear it. But my daughter, she's blonde hair, blue eyed. It doesn't. It has to be more on the pinker side for her. She's more of a cooler skin tone. So I personally, I think I might add some accents into my house, especially outside. I do like this color outside. And again, where I live, we live outside. We barbecue and grill year round. So I do see that. I see that in, my beach accessories, and that I do see this personally coming into my quite a bit. I'm having fun trying to incorporate it into some of my designs, even some of the illustrations I've presented to some clients have had this color into it, and it's going over well. So it is going to, I think, going to be a great color for me personally this year.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a little bit so on it, but I do kind of feel like I do this every year where I'm like, I think I was thinking about it in the more traditional way, like as I showed in earlier slides where it was a bridesmaid's dress or a prom dress, or even in like sort of the traditional coastal southern scene was where I'm used to seeing it. But when I see these fresh takes and kind of fresh palettes of it being incorporated into with the greens or the navies and the teals and the indigos, I'm like, ooh, like I do kind of really like this. So I think I'm going to end up really loving this color.
Yeah. I did see a lot of teals this fall in Thanksgiving and Christmas home decor. And so just take that teal. I mean, and when you look at just the color by itself, you do think of a summer. It's really easy just to kind of get trapped in the mindset of, it's a wedding, it's a prom dress, it's sherbet. So
right.
If you take that color and pair it with some earth tones and some navies and teals, I mean, that could be a really fabulous fall look.
Yeah, I love that insight. I think that's a great insight for this color. Yeah. Because I have seen it as being
for the holiday season. Yeah. So for the holiday season, I see it kind of coming in really strong for the fall. And then for Christmas on the whimsical side, I'm already seeing it now. And I think I'm going to see, I think you'll see it again to Christmas 2019 for the whimsical
holiday
decor and wrappings and all the goodness that comes with that, which I just love. But I'm already seeing it. Yeah. And again, I've similar or colors associated to that, not necessarily that specific Pantone color. I just got the latest, what is it, fashion and home decor Pantone book. I haven't even opened it yet, but so I'm anxious to pull up that color and kind of incorporate that into it. I think it's going to do a lot better than last year's color. And again, I mean, what Pantone puts out, you don't always see trending. The year before, what was that, 2017, the green? Yeah. I mean, green, you can never go wrong with green. So
it was a hard color for my industry just because I was designing rugs. So you don't really see that color in a lot of rugs. However, I felt like they were definitely on point with greenery in terms of, I feel like the explosion of plants in people's homes. Like people have always had houseplants, but I feel like this explosion of plants is happening. And I feel like that's where greenery was really on point.
And that color, it's in succulents. It's a lot of your green you incorporate the home. And it's a great color for outdoors as well. I see that outdoor in a lot of outdoor color out here because it's friendly. It's a friendly color for us to use to decorate with outside. Like some colors we shy away with because we know once we put that cushion out or whatever, the sun halfway through the summer, it's not going to look that great. When the sun starts fading, we like things that kind of incorporate it into the themes. Again, with a lot of the homes here having those tile roofs, you'll see that in their patio or their backyard, outdoor living areas. So that color just really kind of works well. Mine, again, is more craftsman cottage. So I tend to lean a little more towards that with my home personally because it fits it. But again, it's for some colors to decorate with, in terms of home decor is something that lasts longer, unlike clothing where it trends. I mean, once it hits the market, there's a higher turnover. Whereas home decor, you buy a rug, it's going to be there for a few years. You may change things out for seasons. Like I change some things out around the home.
Like throw pillows or some soft texture.
I'll put things accents out for the season. I mean, again, we only have 2 seasons here, and they're kind of similar seasons. So it's not a whole lot, but in terms of home decor, I think it's for like for what you do for rugs, I think to incorporate little bits of it, accent into the rug. There's so many flowers that have that color in it. And again, it's in fruits as well. So to incorporate that in there in the design, I think you'll see that training. The green, what was it, 2 years ago? Again, it is a bright green, but I think, again, hints of it with other greens, other colors, it can do well. So I see that color doing really well in, again, the coastal communities.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the slide. So here are a few funny revelations about how your personality handles this lively color. So let's see. So because coral is a blend between pink and orange, we'll have to draw some conclusions from both of these colors. The book that I have on color personalities didn't have exactly coral, so I had to pull from pink and orange characteristics. But if you love coral, or if you love pink, I guess I should say, a pink person is less ostentatious than a red person, but still has style and perspective. So in softer tints, it is pure, demure, and sweet. And if you love pink, you are generally talented, but not pushy or overly ambitious. So lovers of orange, on the other hand, work and play hard. They're expansive people. They're extroverted. They have original ideas. They're good-natured, adventurous, enthusiastic, and they have strong determination. And they're also pretty agreeable and happy people. But orange lovers can be a bit fickle. it says their newest friend is often their best friend until the next shiny new person comes along. Then that person is their best friend. But they are often successful in business because they're so gregarious and charming. So I really see coral, if you love coral, as being a blend of these two sort of descriptions. So I would say coral lovers will find themselves somewhere in the middle of the scale, perhaps loving to be social on the weekends, but preferring to stay in during the week, maybe being successful in business, but maybe not being like the extroverted salesperson, but a little bit more in the middle. Would you agree with that? This is all coming from Latrice.
Yeah, I do, because because I see the thing about the orange and the pink being very true. I see that a lot in the coral. I do see that.
Okay.
I mean, even for myself, it's work hard during the week. But a lot of times my work spills over to the weekend sometimes. So, but yeah, it is a color that I do associate with playtime. Again, I used to, when I took my kids when they're little to the park, I used to put orange shirts on them so I could spot them easily. And then it started to catch on for, everyone, because everyone else was doing red. And so I thought, okay, I'll do orange.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you hate coral and you just have an aversion for this color, again, I had to kind of pull from the pink and orange sections of this book, Colors for Your Every Mood by Latrice Eisman. But if you hate pink, then its innocence is quite annoying to you, is what it says. You consider it weak. And hot pink is going to be too showy for you, and you're just not a person with that much audacity who needs to be the center of attention all the time. And you prefer more sophisticated and friendly colors, kind of staying in that safe realm of neutrals and muted blues. And then also, if you hate orange, then nothing flamboyant appeals to you. You're not a fan of partying, hilarity, loud people, showing off, or public displays of affection. You prefer to be a little bit more reserved, and you may be slightly a bit of a loner, but you do have a few genuine friends, and once you've made a friend, it's for life. You're very loyal and sincere. So I would say coral haters will find themselves somewhere in the middle of the scale. So perhaps you have some boldness inside of you when necessary, but maybe you prefer to keep it reserved only for like extremely important situations. You're not going to be the center of attention. You're not going to be, the loudest person in the room, but maybe you enjoy a nice party from time to time, but maybe you would never like host a large party yourself. Maybe that would be like too much. So.
Yeah, I agree that I think it's so funny. Okay, so I have this uncle that hates the color red, and he hates it so much that he wouldn't let anyone in his family to wear the color red.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so color, and if you've had color psychology, color really affects people. I used to babysit when I was in high school, this little baby, and the color red made him so excited that if he tried to put him, like if his mom was wearing a red shirt, when she tried to put him down the net, he wouldn't go to sleep.
Oh my goodness.
So
that's
he just lit up every time he saw red. So color really does affect mood and behavior. That's why color, restaurants, when they decorate, or hotels or anything like that, where they're inviting masses of the publics in, they really consult, a good interior designer has a strong background in color psychology and how color affects, again, the brighter colors. It makes you excited, energy, so that you get in there, you eat, and you get out, because they get their business on how many people come through. So I think coral is more of a safe color between those two colors. It's not, there's some people that absolutely hate pink. And when it comes to decor, and there's some husbands that really don't like pink. Orange is a very bold color to go with the coral. So if you have a light faded color, it tends to be a little more safer. There's a common ground there, but
I still see coral as being very feminine, though. Like at least historically, like
I do.
Or Southern, too. Very Southern, like traditional Southern, like.
Yeah, I can see that too. I can see that is a very traditional Southern color.
Or like a Vineyard Vines. I don't know if you're familiar with the brand Vineyard Vines.
No, but we have
But yeah,
So
that's
I
like
think of
men.
vineyards. We have vineyards out here, and they're different color comes in mind because that's what colors that I see across. We have a lot of wineries out here where I live. So,
So this is a clothing company for men. So it's like, but they do very bright colors like this. So I feel like it's a very particular type of personality but they definitely have a big following. So, but I would say it's a very Southern thing.
yeah, like my husband, he would never wear coral. I don't know how he would feel about decorating. And again, being raised by blind people, he gets very overwhelmed visually sometimes. I'll show him designs or things, and I bought this house before I had met him, and I have every room's painted a different color, so it was very visually overwhelming for him to come in. Every room's a different color because I have these different moods. If I want to sit in room and that room's got blues in it, I have for my different moods of how it inspires me. So he appreciates the green that I have, which is an exciting kind of, not a bright, obnoxious green, but it's a kind of a Granny Smith apple green in the bedroom because it's a great color to wake up to. And he does appreciate that. So yeah, I think coral, it is a more feminine color. I have a feeling that more when it comes to a couple's decorating that there'll be more people can agree on coral over pink. It's been a bit of my experience.
Yeah, I could see that.
When I design for my other business, the accessories, the coral really picks up starting February through fall, and it starts to cut off as we close out Thanksgiving. So it is a long lasting, like when I look at that color, because when I invest or, supplies, whether it's materials that are already in that color or paints that I mix for the color, that color has a longer lasting for the year. So, because a lot of my materials are imported from another country. So I have to get it way ahead of time, get the things together, samples and stuff. So that color has a long lasting. It's something that I would invest a lot in for the materials for that color because it trends longer, has a longer season. Red really, late August through February it has a shorter time limit, but I can sell as much red as I do the coral. It's just I'll sell a lot of red, whereas I'll sell coral over just a longer period of time. So that's how when I look at colors for my other business of, okay, like the purples and the lavenders, I know a little bit of it will carry me like 2 years. It just is not it's a color that I need to have in my line, but it's not a color that, because you always have to have that color to kind of sell it.
It's not a bestseller. Yeah.
Yeah. It is something that is needed in the line, but it's not something that it's not one of my, what I call it, bread and butter.
You're not going to run out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too quickly.
Yeah. But the corals, I have so many different shades of it, but I like it with that teal and the navy and some browns and maybe even a gold. So
yeah, I love that palette. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, how will this affect my business? And what will I have to do with this color? So I would say that the very first thing is just you have to know your customers. That's the most important thing. So if you see that you can work it into your existing assortment or product offering, then that would be amazing. See if you can use it as a pop color or on a small detail. Like I mentioned earlier, I designed rugs, so I'm probably not going to do a giant coral shag rug, for example, but I could use it in maybe a floral design or as a small accent within a rug design. So, you can use it in smart ways. And also the exact shade of coral can be a little bit flexible. So you don't have to use this exact shade of coral, but perhaps you want a dull version of coral, which suits your customers a little bit better. For example, the dress on the left, you can see that this is a kind of more dull version, and I could see this color being used in home decor a lot more easily, especially in rugs and textiles. Yeah.
I've designed a lot of logos and done a lot of branding for companies as well. And I used to work with, do a lot of freelance work for a couple of major magazines. And I can see, like, there's a lot of that, because I'm thinking Facebook and my husband, the color of the company my husband works for has that corporate kind of blue. So I'm glad, I hope to see this color in the corporate world. Because it breaks out of that dull corporate and it brings in more of the younger generation, more, it says a lot more of vitality, and it's a color that says growth. I mean, green says growth, but I think this says it's like flourishing.
Yeah, it is very vivacious and lively and has that energy about it. So I can.
Yeah, I hope to see this
for
more
sure
incorporated into the corporate world.
So coral can also be a great shade for marketing and advertisements, and it's easy to incorporate into your social media strategy, like we talked about earlier. I'm losing my headphone. Like we talked about earlier with it being Instagrammable. It's very eye-catching, and if you like when people are scrolling through Instagram or through Pinterest, if you want your pin or your photograph or your design to really pop out on the page and like stand out in the news feed. So I feel like this color is very eye-catching and easy to do that with your social media strategy. And you can develop into the overall meaning as well behind the purpose of living coral by bringing a sense of environmental consciousness into your business messaging and just thinking about overall like why Pantone picked this color and just sort of latching onto that and bringing that into your business messaging. If you're not going to, go crazy with this color, you can still kind of dive into why it's here for 2019.
Yeah.
So any other final thoughts, Erica, that you have?
No, you put on a great presentation. This is great.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
I'm just really excited to see this color. I hope to see it in, like I said, the corporate world. I'm already seeing it. This morning I was on social media in Instagram and someone posted the Pantone color, and wow, it just made such a statement in my feed when I was going through. It made me stop for a second. So I hope to see it more. I encourage people to get out of their comfort zone, and even if just incorporate a little bit of the accent. I'm going to, once I get past the holidays, I'm going to maybe pull some of it into my home decor. I used red brick in my home, so there's a little hint of that in there, so I can kind of incorporate that in there. I can see there's a lot of, in the Tuscan, there's a lot of people that decorate Tuscan, so you can kind of incorporate that very easily, and I hope to see some in your rugs. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to try it, see how it goes over, how customers respond to it. Sometimes rugs can be a little bit slow. Like we talked about doing florals, and it's like we're even a little bit slow to dive back into florals because florals have been out of rugs for a while. I mean, we're starting to see it come back, but like you said, you have to have a rug for so many years. So the trends kind of change more slowly than they would.
Yeah. I steer away from catering to designing for the fashion industry because they pay the least. And because of the high turnover, I do like home decor. Most of the home decor that I've licensed designs for the Urban Daisies, I've licensed designs to have been for the Christmas market. So right now, in fabric, I'm sorry, I forgot about the fabric, but that's like everyday use. So I'm hoping I'm gonna see about incorporating at least a variation, if not this exact Pantone color, into a collection for maybe fabric or something here soon, and some other designs. And I'm working on a few pitches, and I think one of them has coral in it, or a corally color in it. So we'll see how that goes over with this client. So
great. Okay. Well, for anyone who is watching, if you have any questions, please just leave a comment down below in the comments, and we will answer those to the best of our abilities and as quickly as possible. And definitely get your freebie. I've created an ultimate trend guide for 2019, and I will link to it in the description below. And definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the little bell so that you will get notified every time I come out with a new video. It's usually like once a month, so don't worry, it's not going to annoy you. I'm on Instagram at Lauren Lesley Studio if you want to connect with me there. Or if you'd rather listen to the podcast version of this show, you can subscribe to the Design Tribe. It's on iTunes and Spotify. You can join my Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Design Tribe Lauren Lesley, and Lesley's with an EY. And thank you so much for watching. You can again find Erica at urbandaisies_ on Instagram, and I'm at Lauren Lesley Studio. We really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.